everyone, thank you for tuning in to another piece of advice. My name is Lockie Cozzoli and I'm glad you're here to learn and grow with me. That rhymes. Again, I'm very happy that I came up with something that actually rhymes. This one will be a bit different and I don't want it to be controversial. I don't think it should be controversial. But I guess to people who've grown up with me and around me, it may be controversial because it may hit or struck a nerve, which feels uncomfortable. But the point of this stuff is in order to get anywhere, you need to actually be uncomfortable. In order for any change or positive growth to occur, you need to be uncomfortable. At the end of the day, this piece of advice is just a simple piece of advice that anyone can take and apply to their lives, and it essentially helps you grow and evolve as a human being. It's very applicable to all different situations and especially for your career as well. But the example I'll be going through is a controversial one and people dismiss it. People don't really understand what's going on with it. So I'll start with a question. I want to get you involved with this. What is your immediate response when someone says something that you disagree with? Just immediately that you disagree with. I'll give you a sec to kind of think and ponder on that. And then I guess a follow-up question on that is, what is your immediate response when someone says they have different pronouns or identify as something different than you? Think about that. Now, if you're someone who's not with that stuff and you're not accepting of those things or you don't agree with it, stick with me. Don't click off just yet. This is helpful for you. In order to grow and evolve, you need to get uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable for some people to talk about, and I'll even share my own stories with it, my own opinions. But man, especially with topics of gender diversity, your answer is really easy. It's really easy to take the dismissive comedic route, but that's too easy. That's lazy, in my opinion. We can't be so naive that we just don't accept that humans are more complex than we originally thought they were. That's pretty naive, especially with the emerging science on these topics. There is so much more to the topic than just what we have previously thought. And some people are not only a product of their environment, but they're a victim of their environment. Unfortunately, they stay true or they get trapped in what they grew up with, the attitudes, the beliefs, the opinions that they grew up with. If you've grown up around the same people and still live with the same people, the same circle of opinions and attitudes and beliefs, you most likely will not grow out of them because those feel comfortable to you. They feel safe. It's obviously going to be super uncomfortable when any of those things are challenged because that stuff is all you know. That's all you know. And that's completely understandable as to why some people aren't accepting of other people, because they were never taught to be that way. They never grew up to be accepting and understanding of other things instead of being dismissive of those things. Similar, because this is a mental health space, right? This is mental health mission Path to Peace, but as I'm realizing, my mission is much deeper than just talking about anxiety. It's talking about the environment that we are in. It's talking about all the different things that come into play for our mental health. And this is something that comes into play for that. How well we are able to evolve. Are we able to look past our bias or do we become victims of our bias? We obviously are products of our environment, but do we become victims of our environment? That can be a true detriment to your mental health because you never really evolve past what you see and know in your environment. It can be really toxic, and I think it's a very common thing. It's a reason why there is a lack of acceptance of a lot of different people, especially LGBT community. People aren't growing outside of what they have grown up with. It's sort of similar to when someone says they're struggling with mental health. I'm not saying that people who have gender, or like are struggling with identifying with their gender. I'm not saying it's a mental illness. What I'm saying is you give the support, the general advice for someone who is struggling with their mental health is that you give them the time of day. You give them the time of day that they are human. You give them the respect that they deserve for being a human, and you listen to them. Same as when I had my really bad struggles with mental health, I had people there who just sat there and listened. Even further, asking, do you want sympathy or do you want solutions, right? But they just sat there and listened. That was the best thing. And that's the general piece of advice that goes around for anyone struggling with anything. Sit there and listen. That's all it is. You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to give them solutions. You just sit there and listen to someone who is showing them a part of themselves that they didn't really feel safe talking about before. Now, like, I grew up in Sutherland Shire. For anyone who knows, most people of you watching are from the Sutherland Shire, but anyone who doesn't know, we've had our fair share of issues in the past in terms of accepting people who are different. Cronulla riots are an example, right? But the general topic of accepting people who are different, being conscious of them and being aware, being kind, really, has been a tough thing for this community. It's not everyone, obviously, and this stuff is ingrained in our culture to kind of make fun of things that we don't understand. I talk to people who come to the Shire and they're like, yeah, it's pretty racist in the Shire. And I'm like, shit, yeah, you're kind of right, because you don't pick people that you are friends with or that you know to be racist, but then the things that they may say, you're like, wow, actually that is dismissive of that group of people. And you can make jokes, like I make pretty fucked up jokes with my friends, and but I think it becomes an issue when that joke is actually what you stand by. So I definitely grew up kind of sheltered to these issues. I grew up in an environment where I didn't have to be challenged on these things because no one was really challenging them around me. We obviously have that history of not being accepting of other people, and those attitudes are still around to some degree today. And it's sometimes innocently present in people. But we still got to work on those things. There are people who are very overt and out there with their dismissal of a group of people or a community. And we need to understand, okay, why are they thinking that way? A lot of the time, often it's because they've been sheltered. They've grown up to not be that way. So it feels uncomfortable to be a bit more lenient or to come at it from a diplomatic standpoint. Especially people who criticize the LGBT plus community. They freak out over things and they deem certain things as like extreme, or they say that the community is an extremist community. But you got to be consistent, right? There is extremism everywhere. In all types of groups and societies, there are things that are thought of as extreme to outsiders looking in. There's religious extremists, there's political extremists, there's extremism everywhere. So be consistent. We're human, we're bound to have people who maybe take things a bit too far, or there is extremist viewpoints or how they stand on certain issues. There's extremists everywhere. There are people who are going to take things certain ways. But don't just criticize the LGBT plus community because you think they are extreme in their measures or their advocacy or their way of life. One, be consistent. Criticize other groups and actually understand why certain groups are the way they are, why people are taking certain measures. And two, listen. Don't be a victim of your own bias. Listen and learn first. I think a failure to evolve is a failure to be human. From a mental, emotional standpoint, we are supposed to evolve. If you do not evolve, you never give yourself or other people the chance to grow and evolve as well. There's always new science coming out on all sorts of things. There's always new understandings, new studies going out on certain things. So become well-read. You can't just dismiss things if all you're reading is the same things, or if you're not doing any research at all. Do a bit of research. Listen to someone when they're speaking to you. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen. Let's try not to fail at the one thing that humans are supposed to do, and that is evolve. We are supposed to evolve and grow. Don't fail at that. Try not to fail at that, okay? Brings me back to my main point. The way you can get there, the way you can grow and evolve, is through simply listening, allowing another viewpoint to enter your sphere. Because fuck, man, like, I'll admit, I've had a discriminative mindset over the years. And I do blame a bit on my environment, being a victim of my environment, but also me being too lazy to do a bit of research, to open myself to another person's viewpoint. Particularly with gender diversity, like, I was discriminative of people who were transgender and who were identifying as something different to what their genitals are. I was a rude person to those people, and I was dismissive, and I would say things online which was really rude. I didn't even give that person the respect that they deserve as a human being. I'd be extremely ashamed if I was still that same person. There is a bit of shame, but I'm happy that I've evolved. I'm happy that I've evolved from that, uneducated standpoint to actually understanding a bit more about the LGBTQIA+ community and opening myself to new understandings. I'd be really ashamed if I was still the same person, if I didn't evolve. To be fair, I was working with what was in front of me, and what was in front of me was how I responded. What was in front of me was little to no new or like emerging science or new studies on the topic. What I was working with was the same opinions and agendas that were just kind of forced down my throat because I wouldn't accept anything else. That's all I'd allow myself to listen to. I was stuck in my own bias especially because like, it's rare that people around me were challenging the norm. I don't even remember knowing anyone who was transgender. I still actually don't know anyone yet, but I've allowed myself to listen to more opinions and open myself up to new understandings. So, and I do remember this one person, and this is something I'm very ashamed of, but I want to admit because I think it's something that a lot of people do. And this can be where you can really start to evolve and really start to change. This at least was a low point for me in how I engage with other people and how I treat other people, not be dismissive of other people. This was a low point for that. This one person, I went to school, or he was a couple of years above me, and I ridiculed him and made jokes about him on Facebook about him going from being gay to transitioning and being transgender, right? I think he's a she now. Don't actually know, I haven't spoken to him, and I think it would be nice to actually speak to him and even get him on to speak about these things, because that is allowing you guys to be educated. That's allowing me to be educated. But yeah, I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't know what impact that would have on this person. I'm ashamed, very deeply ashamed of that in particular, because my own ignorance and my own pride, in my opinion, being challenged, this was obstructing me from being a kind, morally upright person that I strive to be and that I was raised to be. Someone else making decisions about their body and their way of life, which does not directly affect me, should not be my primary concern, should not call for my energy or opinion on that topic. I let bias and pride get in the way of me being a decent human being who treated another human being with the respect that they deserved. And so I guess to that person, wherever you are, even if I don't think you'd be watching, I don't blame you if you're not watching, you don't want to deal with anything that I've put out there, but to that person, I want to apologize. I genuinely want to apologize. I didn't treat you with the respect that you deserve as another human being. I came at it from an uneducated standpoint, and I just treated you like shit. Really, honestly, there's no other way to, there's no other excuse that holds any weight. I treated you poorly from one human being to another. I apologize. I should never have happened. yes, you can blame the environment, but there is, so much you can do to improve your morals as a human being, right? And you can't just stay as a victim to your environment. So I apologize. I won't say your name, but I genuinely do apologize. I would like to meet up with you in the future to actually talk to you and give an honest apology and to understand more. Because from my understanding, I think you've transitioned, and that's great. I'm happy for you. If I had stayed in that same mindset, who knows who else I would have run into and made ridiculing comments towards. Because in that time, a lot of hate was fueled in me. A lot of hate was stored in me. I was just spewing that out. Because hate, I guess, comes from fear, and fear comes from something that you don't understand. If only we were to understand the things around us, we would most likely fear them less, and therefore we would hate less. Hate it's lazy, but it's so much energy going towards something that really does not impact you. It's way easier to hate someone or a group of people than to try to understand them or compromise with them on what they're saying. You will find a reason to dismiss someone if you look for it. So don't dismiss before you try to understand them. You will learn to hate less and understand more, and you will feel better. Look to compromise, look to understand, try to see the world from someone else's shoes. Be the brave one, be unique. Don't just be the person who ridicules someone. Be courageous enough to challenge your beliefs. There is something beautiful when you challenge yourself, and that thing is clarity. What you get from that is clarity. When you challenge your inherent beliefs and opinions, and you allow yourself to be open to another perspective, there comes clarity. So yeah, look, it's a complex topic, but it's a very simple approach at the end of the day. Just listen. Just listen. I'm telling you, just listen. Try to understand what someone else is saying. Give the respect to another human being that they deserve. And you will actually thank yourself for it, because you will live with less hate and more understanding of a person or a group of people. I'll leave you with this one question. Do you want to be remembered as someone who evolved or didn't evolve? Take some time to think about that, and thank you really for listening in on this and tuning in for this piece of advice. I love you, I really do. I appreciate this so much. Even if you're someone who was turned off at the start by the stuff that I was talking about and you're really not interested in learning more about this stuff, the fact that you stayed to the end and listened, that's the entire point of this video. That's literally the entire point of this video. And you listened or you watched. I appreciate it, because that is where you grow. That's a telltale sign that you will grow and evolve if you're allowing yourself to be open to another viewpoint. I'm proud of you. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you in another piece of advice. I've got an interview coming out in a couple of days. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And thank you for listening. Appreciate it.